the first thing you have to do is pay for an event, and the second thing you have to do is show up to it. Is
Pretty
that right?
much.
Then you
Yep,
become a tournament player?
that's right.
My name is Tanya, otherwise known as the War Mistress. I've painted some minis, I've played some games, and I'm on a mission to be nice and roll dice.
Welcome to another episode of Be Nice and Roll Dice. I am Tanya, your host, and I'm here today with Mr. Skari. Skari is a YouTuber, but he's so much more than that, so I will let him take it away to explain what it is that he does.
Hello, everyone. I'm very nice, and I roll dice.
It's true, he's very nice. You're gonna have to pick those up later.
That was a very yes, I am. Today we've got tons of stuff that we are working on today, and I just made a terrible mess in my studio. It's all good. It's all for the good of content creation. But I'm Skari. I'm mostly a Drukari player, and I do 40k coaching, content creation, battle reports. I run a Patreon, and this is literally my full-time gig is making content. So I'm really excited to sit down and chat about a topic that I find is very true and akin to like the core of what I do, which is about tournaments and stuff like that. So I can't wait to chat about it.
And you actually work with the ITC as well, the Independent Tournament Circuit. Is that correct?
So I'm one of the ITC reps for Ontario. So I'm one of the Canadian reps. I did run the first ITC ever event in Canada, the Barry Bash, back when the ITC tournament circuit was barely starting up. I'm also part of the Art of War team in terms of coaching as well as content creation over the Art of War, and I'm a regular co-host on Chapter Tactics with Pablo and the other people like Brandon and people like that as well.
So you do a lot of stuff. You are probably one of the busiest people that I know, and I'm so glad that you were able to stop in today so that we could talk a little bit about tournaments in general. Um,
Mhm.
but I wanted to start off with maybe like a little bit of an interesting question. But if you had to give any steps on how somebody can become a tournament player, what steps would that be?
Um, well, first of all, I think you have to kind of like get over the mental block and really understand like what your reasoning to go to a tournament is. Personally, my going to a tournament first and foremost is going to see friends, and I know this year's been like really, really weird around the world with COVID. Going to tournaments hasn't really been the most normal thing to do or the safest thing to do in a lot of situations. However, and so I've missed a lot of my friends that I get to see normally at events. And so, first and foremost, going to a tournament is about the social experience. Am I a competitive player and do I go to compete? Yes, 100%, absolutely, in that spirit of comradeship and friendship. But seeing people that you get to see every year, that you make friends with from all over the world and all over your region and things like that, that's the main reason that I would recommend you go to an event. And then everything else is sort of secondary. Playing, winning, like unless of course your goal is just to go and win and you don't have any friends, which is fine. It's just it's not what I go to a tournament for.
Yeah, and if that's you, go back and watch my video from 2 weeks ago. There might be some advice in that one for you about sportsmanship and making sure that your opponent also has a good time. Um, Going to see friends is literally like the only reason why I go to tournaments because I'm not like the greatest player ever. Um, but like that social aspect is absolutely like the best part of tournaments, I think, in my opinion. Um, is there a certain skill level that you think somebody should attain before going to a tournament?
No, not at all. I
No.
think if you want to go, you want to go as soon as possible. I think you learn the most when you're in that high pressure situation. The only thing is you have to be realistic with like your expectations. If you're new to the game and you're still flipping through your codex because you don't remember any of your rules, you might, I think that's probably one of the biggest deterrents for people going to a tournament, being like, I don't want to be a burden for my opponent because I don't want to make a fool out of myself. I don't want to seem like I don't know what I'm doing or look silly. Um, and that's a very real feeling that people have before they go to an event, is that sort of anxiety of like that performance. You know what I mean? They feel like, yeah, yeah. Um, and I know, and it's not unusual, right? However, you'll find that most people, when you go to a tournament, are there's other people that have that skill level like you do that have gone to the tournament, and at some point you'll end up playing against them in later rounds, and it'll be just like playing a pickup game or like a fun game in your basement because you're both on the same page. And early in the rounds, if you play against a more experienced player, they have experienced that before and they know what it's like to play someone who has less experience. So more often than not, you'll find someone that helps you play the game and that teaches you as you play. Very rarely will you find someone that just totally takes advantage of the fact that you're like, don't know anything, right? But at that point, the game's over quick and you can just move on to the next game, right? Like it shouldn't be a deterrent. You should
Hmm.
go just to sort of experience it, but understand that you're more than likely not going to win the tournament. So don't have like crazy expectations of like winning every game. Just go to experience it, roll some dice, and kind of get the feel for it. So that next time, if it's something you enjoyed, you can do it and be more prepared, for example. But once you get that tournament bug and you've gone a few times, it's very hard to get that bug out of you because you kind of want to go and you want to experience that again.
Hmm. Um, my first tournament that I ever went to, it was actually kind of a big one. It was a GT actually, and I had played a few games. I was starting to get the feel for my codex, but I hadn't like memorized anything. But I made cue cards so that I didn't have to like keep flipping through my book and stuff. And I just rolled up to the table and I just said, I am new to the game. I've only been playing for a few
Mm-hmm.
months. This is my first tournament. I'm not entirely sure how things go. And people were actually really super nice. Some of my best games that I had in that like learning process were at that tournament actually. Um, and that was really refreshing because I went into that with so much social anxiety. And then as soon as I sat down at the first table, almost all of that anxiety just sort of melted away because like my opponent was super nice and it was just a really nice experience, and you don't actually have to have that like pre-game conversation where you're trying to figure out like what people expect out of the game. You're at a tournament, you know what people expect out of the game, right? So it was actually just quite overwhelmingly positive for me, the entire experience. So I just want to sort of hit home that sort of idea that tournaments really are for everybody at every skill level. Did you want to maybe explain how Swiss pairings work? Because a majority of tournaments are going to be Swiss pairings now, I think.
Absolutely, but we'll also get to like the main thing that you need to go to a tournament, right? The main thing, and we'll go cover that at the end of the video here. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But it's a very, very simple solution to going to a tournament.
Yeah.
Um, so Swiss pairings are essentially, or the way most tournaments work, and I'm going to use like a basic like rogue trader tournament, which is for short we call an RTT, which is about a 16 person to 20 person event normally. Some tournaments you go to are like 8 people, some tournaments are 24, some are 3 rounds in a day, some are 4 rounds in a day. So make sure you check what style event you're going to because they'll have different start times and end times and different round times, right? Once you get into larger events like GTs and majors and then super majors, which are like LVO, for example, those are over the course of 2 or 3 days. You get 3 rounds per day, and you have anywhere from 6 to or 5 to like 9 rounds, right? So some of these big events are a marathon of gaming, and they are very tiring, and they they require a lot of stamina and snacks and lots of hydration and lots of thinking and being tired. But in a local event, and even at the larger ones, usually it's a Swiss pairing system. So what it does is you have 20 people or 16 people sign up for the event, and the first round will be randomized. So out of the 16 people, they all get put into a hat, they get like spun around or whatever, like a bingo ball or whatever, and then they get pulled out and paired up together. And so you'll have a disparity of like people from very high ranking or people who know what they're doing with lower like ranking people, and it down the pile like that. Now, more often than not, the BCP app will not pair people from the same team together on round one. And mainly it's so if you travel 3 hours to go to a tournament with your buddies and your friends and you're all the same team, the first round at least, you're not going to be playing someone that you could have just played at in your basement, right? And so that's like just by design. But essentially, you'll play, and then all the winners. So, say there's 16 players, you'll have 8 winners and 8 people who lost their games, right? And so now the next round or round two will be between the 8 people who won, and they will play each other. So usually it's the 2 highest scores, then the next two, the next two, and next two. So it'll usually be about 4 tables of undefeated. Then round three, you have 4 people that won their games, and 4 more. And so the people who won their second match but lost their first one will play the people who lost their second match but won their first one. So then they're around the same skill level, right? So it just kind of matches up. At the end, you normally have 2 undefeated players on the top table. With 3 rounds, I think you can only do it with what, 10, 8 to 12 people or something like that. But once you hit more than 12, you technically need 4 rounds to do that properly. So more often than not, it goes to number of battle points. That's pretty much how it works. As you play winners, and people who lost play people who have the same sort of win streak as them, or the same amount of wins and losses.
Yeah.
And so at the end, yeah.
At the end, you end up playing people who are really close to your skill level, and I think that those last games on the last day are usually the best. They're the most fun, like nail biters. It's like all the stuff that you like out of a game, right?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought maybe we could go through like some tips that we could actually do to prepare for our first tournament. And I wanted to start with tips that you could do like well in advance, right? Because normally, most normal people know like a month or 2 out that they're going to be coming into a tournament. So maybe we could talk about some in advance things that we could do to make sure that we're ready.
Yeah, so you have to sort of think of it as in a basic, intermediate, and advanced preparedness for a tournament. If you're going to your first tournament, don't think about doing all the advanced preparedness. You're just going to overwhelm and confuse yourself. So if you're an avid tournament goer, you're always going to have like a regimented routine. Like myself, I have sort of like a little, like it's like ritualistic almost going to an event, from getting a tournament army set up to practicing with an army to the like 2 days before, 3 days before, one day before, the night before, like what I'm setting up or packing or how I pack or getting everything ready, what I put in my bag that I take to the event, goodies, snacks, that sort of thing. So that's very advanced. Like it's literally like a business plan. I'm kind of going through everything to make it easier for myself. However, at the most basic level, one of the first things you should do is take an army that you're going to enjoy playing, first and foremost, that you're going to have fun with. A lot of people think that they need to go to a tournament to win. And so they'll try and like get like a meta army, or they'll spend a lot of money and like build a bunch of models. And at the end of the day, they'll play a couple of games with the list and it doesn't vibe with them at all, or it doesn't vibe with you. Like your list you're playing just feels like it's sucking the life out of you. And you're like, this is not fun or entertaining. You're going to have to do this 3 to 4 times in a day. You're going to be very crappy feeling at the end of the day.
Burnt out.
It's not gonna feel fulfilling, right? So you're better off playing something that you're just gonna enjoy, right? And you're gonna have fun with. It might not be the most competitive, especially if it's your first time, but find a list that you're gonna enjoy playing. That's like the number one. The number two is practice with it if you can. as many times as you can, especially if it's a few months out. Get your buddies to play with it. Like, just play with it. Whether you win or you lose with your list, just kind of get the hang of the ropes. Like, like how much shooting you need, how many dice you need to have on hand, right? Because things like that really help you speed things up. Like, if you need 30 dice to rapid fire a bunch of dudes, have like the pre-measured dice out so you're not like counting a million dice like during the game. Read the tournament pack is a huge part of going to a tournament. I don't care if you're brand new. That's like something you should just do.
Hmm.
Read the tournament pack. What missions are you going to be playing? How's the terrain? What do they have any specific FAQs? Like, are they going to let you fire and fade a bunch of guardians after you deep strike them, right? Or are they using the WTC FAQ or whatever FAQ? Like, read the tournament pack because that'll affect different parts of gameplay. And then last but not least, if you have any questions pertaining to a ruling that you might have with your friends or something that's contentious on the internet, that's like, well, if you see it raw, it's this way. And if you see it as intended, it's this way. So which way is it? Send an email to the organizer or message the tournament organizer or the judge at the event and ask them what way this contentious ruling will be ruled at that event.
Hmm.
And be okay with however it gets ruled, but understand which way it's going to get ruled going into the event so there's no surprises and not going in with any sort of expectations of how a rule will or will not play out if there's questions. And that's it. And that's it. Other than that, you just have to kind of show up and
I
play
have
your games.
I have a few other things actually.
Awesome.
Because a lot of new players don't actually have their stuff painted, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you're quite a veteran, so you have what, like the entire Jakari range and all of it is painted?
I believe I do.
Yeah. Yeah. But if you're a new player, you
Except for
probably don't have
actual
that.
legitimate Razorwing Flux. I do not own any Games Workshop Razorwing birds because I don't. But I probably will try get some at some point.
So I have some advice on getting your army painted. So first off, read that tournament packet because it's going to tell you what the painting requirements are going to be for the tournament that you're going to. And
Hmm.
then once you've decided what you want to play, or even before you've sort of finalized your list, but you should know about the core of what you're going to bring, base coat and wash all of that. Base coat and wash all of the core. And I would do it all at once. Because a lot of times the tournaments don't actually need you to have like, 3 highlight layers and yada yada. So that would be my suggestion if you don't have your stuff painted. Base coat, wash, hashtag just put paint on it. Wink. Shameless.
It's the
Shameless.
simplest solution to exactly what you're saying. Simple solution.
Yes. And so that would be my suggestion. And don't leave it to the last minute. So as
Yep.
soon as you sign up, start painting. Because you will sometimes see people who are like mad dash painting like the morning before they actually play. Don't be that person. That is so stressful. Don't do that to yourself. So I would start
I've done
painting.
it. We've all done it. If you're a tournament player, you've just done it. You stay up till 4 a.m. and you have to be at the venue at 8, and you're still painting because you want those paint points or whatever.
Did you wish that you didn't
Don't do
though?
it, but I'm sure you've done it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've learned not to have to do that over time because it sucks.
Yeah. And then another piece of advice that I would have is maybe just contact the TO in advance anyway. Just give him a heads up, him or her a heads up that you are new, that this is your first tournament. And like, especially if you don't have any friends that are going to be at that tournament with you, or like in my case, that the friend that's going to be there with you is like probably going to win that tournament, so that you're a social butterfly, so that you're only going to see him 5 minutes out of each day. Maybe introduce yourself to the TO so that you at least know somebody there. For me, as somebody with social anxiety, just knowing that I had one other person there who knew that I was coming, who knew that I was going to be new, and maybe knew that I needed a little bit extra assistance at check-in, It really took a lot of stress and worry off of me. Um, Skari, you're a TO. What would you do if somebody sent you a message and said it was their first time?
Well, as a TO, you try and accommodate like for all your players as well, but you definitely like as it depends as well as how big the event is, but you can only check up on people, and especially if it's their first event or whatever, you want to go up and, hey, how's it going, you having fun, you kind of check in with them over the course of the day. And if not, you have like volunteers or helpers that are helping out, and you can kind of tell them, hey, that person's their first tournament or whatever, make sure that they're having a good time. And you kind of like, we make it as easy as possible, and it also means that we're like aware of like if someone needs help or looks frustrated or whatever, we can kind of go over and we have like an understanding of where they are, what they're feeling, and things like that. It's super important just in general to like have that sort of framework, and it's a lot easier when somebody introduces themselves. Like if I get an email, right, hey, what are all these questions, and like how are you going to rule all this stuff, it helps me as a TO understand like, hey, maybe there's some FAQs or some questions that haven't been addressed in the player pack, or something that I need to make an announcement on, or how something's going to be played, or before the tournament starts, like go on the announcer and say, hey, we had this question, it brought up, this piece of terrain specifically on all the tables, it looks like an obstacle, but it really counts as area terrain. And it's, it doesn't have a base, but, it counts as area terrain. So if you touch it, you're in cover or whatever. So, little things like that could mean the difference between somebody having a good time at the event or kind of feeling like they got lost in the crowd, basically.
And then there's one other thing that I suggest doing in advance, and it's figuring out how you're going to get your army from your house to the venue. Um, Sometimes you'll need to actually buy transport cases. In my case, I actually made some, but you really don't want to have to be figuring that out like 2 days before the actual tournament. Like you want to have a plan for that well in advance, because it just takes one more thing off your plate in that like couple day lead up to the actual tournament. So that's my suggestion also. And there are lots of
It's,
tutorials and stuff out there if you need to make something.
Make something. I personally use battle foam. I have Dark Eldar models, and they're very pointy and lots of spikes. And I like foam that's like, 5 inches deep. You can put a whole raider in. Don't have to worry about it. I've taken it overseas. And it works great for me. So, and it's funny because it's funny building a list. I tend to build a list that I can fit into what I can travel with rather than just building the most effective list. I'll be like, can I put it all in one travel case? Yes? Good. That's my list.
Well, I was playing Astra Militarum, so there would be no way that I'd be able to fit that in one tiny little case. But I made my travel
I'm sure
cases.
you could.
No, I don't think so. But I made my travel cases well in advance, and I'm so super like happy that I did. But that's all I really have for like advanced stuff. You have anything else?
The only other stuff you can really get into is keep on top of your FAQs, right? And know when rule cutoffs are for the events. Like, for example, for me, I'll cut off like rules the day of the event. So, like, if your codex gets a new codex a week before the event, I'll allow it, right? Because who wants to go to a tournament with an old crappy codex? Nobody does, okay? You
No.
take your new stuff. But some tournaments have like a month cut off or 3 weeks or two. So just understand when rules are going to be cut off and keep up to date with FAQs. Because if they got released a week before or 2 weeks before or a couple of days before and they changed a weapon or a relic or something that you submitted in your list, or they clarified one of those rulings that we were talking about before and it's opposite to what the TO had said, but then GW was like, this is how we really intended it to be and it doesn't match up. Like that's the kind of thing to be in, you should really be advanced of and keep on top of, that affects the way the game plays. And that's it. Just kind of know your FAQ. If you're not going to know any others, just know yours,
Mhm.
and know your rules as well as you can, and cue cards work great, like you did. I highly recommend cue cards. Have a checklist. Like if you're doing advanced tournament stuff, like you can literally have a checklist of what to do every turn or every round. Remember to breathe. Check.
It's a big one.
Take a step back and don't freak out.
Yeah.
Check.
Have fun. Check.
Have fun. Oh, mandatory fun time. Check. I'm having so much fun. Let me take more models off the table.
So I thought maybe we could go through like some night before stuff, or maybe 2 days in advance, night before, or something like that. And one thing I wanted to talk about is everybody talks about like the game day kit. It's like stuff that you wouldn't necessarily think that you're going to need, but you might or probably will need it in the events of the day. What do you bring in your like game day kit?
Liquid. So Gatorade or something. I usually bring like a fruit or granola bars or something just to snack on. Because I'll usually find that sometimes I'll like not eat food, or I'll just literally be so into something that I'll forget to like eat or drink. So it's good to have that sort of stuff on hand in case you go, you know what I haven't had today? Any water. You go, great, good thing I had some in my game kit. But the game kit itself usually has rule books, all my like codexes. I've got like pen and paper. I've got my this widget here, which is like probably the most important thing a tournament player can have, which is the 3-inch, 2-inch, 1-inch, half an inch. Right, it's literally one of the most important tools you can use. Measuring tape, extra measuring tape, objective markers, just that sort of thing.
Glue.
I bring stickers because I like giving people stickers. I tend to not bring glue because somebody else will have glue. And
I know you're that guy.
I tend to, I tend. Then again, sometimes they break. Sometimes it doesn't matter. But so because I travel a lot, I've had bad experiences with glue. So if you are going to bring glue, just make sure it's like a sealed container that's not going to get everywhere and ruin all your stuff.
Mhm.
Base markers or little elastic bands to like make sure that all your units are very clearly marked, so that people can like tell them apart. Of course, I'm more of the competitive style, so it doesn't have to be aesthetically too pleasing. For me, it's just I need to, in the middle of a game, understand that this squad is this squad and that squad is that squad. So I'm not using any more brain power than I need to distinguish the two squads and go, which squad marking? Okay, the little face tattoo says that's squad A, and little face tattoo says that's squad B. I don't have time for that in the middle of a game. And then some of the more esoteric and random stuff is stuff that helps you with your mental process. So it might be like having comfortable clothes, shoes. Um, that for me is a big part of my tournament experience. If I feel uncomfortable or I'm like fidgeting with like a jacket, or I have a jacket that's going to clip one of my models and pull it off the table while I'm playing, or, make a lot of noise or just be uncomfortable and unwieldy, that tends to detract from me getting in the zone when I'm in the tournament. So I have like a tournament sort of like wardrobe almost, where I'm gonna wear like these jeans and these shoes and this t-shirt, and with big enough back pockets that I can put all my dice in my back pocket and pull them out of my butt. Be like, oh yeah, and then like throw them.
I am on the
But
topic of comfort. As
mhm,
somebody who has been recently diagnosed with a degenerative disorder, if you have any sort of like health concerns, make sure that you are bringing all of like the medication, or if you need a brace or something like that, make sure that you are packing that the night before. Maybe make a checklist so that you don't forget any of this stuff, because going to tournaments can be very hard on your body.
mhm,
um Even if you don't have any sort of like physical things that you think would warrant bringing medication, I still might bring like some sort of pain medication, like an Advil or naproxen, something, whatever works for you, because the air is dry, you will be dehydrated, sometimes you don't eat right, you might get a headache, and you don't really want a headache to be the thing that's stopping you from having a good time.
Yeah, I take some Advil with me, for example. Like if you are also like you have like your joints are gonna hurt or your back's gonna hurt, like you can have like a weightlifter belt or something to take the pressure off your back, or you can. I know some people bring yoga mats and literally put like some sort of like cooking floor mat, like from a restaurant, put it out like where they're standing, so it takes all the pressure off their joints. You could bring a stool if you know that you're going to need to sit down and you just want to make sure you have a chair at the right height for you, right? Like throughout the entire day, like a fold stool or something. Some people bring like a trolley they can literally pull all their stuff around with at a big event. It's like you can go to, like, I don't know, here in Canada, we've got Canadian Tire, but you can probably find it at Costco or Walmart or whatever. It's like a tray where you just like fold it out. It's like a tool tray essentially
Hmm.
that you can just push all your models around on. Your display board can be on there, and underneath you can put like all your random stuff that you need to store, so that you're not like looking around for a place to put your jacket or a place to put your bag. Like it's all contained in its own little area, and it's like your area while you go around the tournament. The key there is to make it comfortable for you, less stress. You know where all your stuff is. You can go from one table to another relatively quickly. And as someone goes to tournaments, you'll end up finding like what works for you and what doesn't. Like some people are very low maintenance. They have like a cookie tray and a bunch of models on the cookie tray, and they just go, yeah, and they just go from table to table with a cookie tray covered in models. And they have like, I have a satchel, right? Like my cool satchel stuff, Skardcast satchel. Um,
Shameless
and it's
self-promotion.
I'm also wearing the Skardcast hoodie. So talk about comfort. Um, so it's all about finding like the little things that are gonna make it easy for you. Like in this, I've got this little like thing here. I have a whole bunch of random tournament stuff, chess clock and this and a little massage bowl and a whole bunch of stuff like that. And just tools and stuff. I've got a little tin that has like wound markers and a whole bunch of different stuff inside that I know I'm going to use throughout the game. So I just have all these things that I've used over many years, and over time you'll know kind of like what you need and what's kind of like fluff that you don't really need. And eventually, the more you go to tournaments, the more you'll kind of like make the kit your own, right?
Hmm.
But some things stay the same, like make it comfortable. That's like standard. Make sure you have everything you need to play the game. And then some stuff for like water or Advil or just personal need stuff as well.
Hmm. And always pack your stuff the night before.
Oh God, yes.
No, because there are people who pack the morning of, and it's like,
Oh, I know. And then you show up to the event and go,
I'm
where's my
missing stuff.
bloodthirster?
Yeah.
Where's my demon prince? Where's my 20 pink horrors?
Yeah.
It's happened to me before. I go up, damn it, I forgot my mandrakes. Mother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can actually like the best way to pack is to pull out your army list, whether you have that on, you know, Battle Scribe, Battleforge app, whatever, and just like go through it, put it on the table in front of you, make sure that you have everything, and then pack that.
100%.
Because you
I
don't want to be that guy.
100% recommend that. Oh,
Mm.
yes. Or that girl. Come on.
Yes, you don't want to be that person.
Hooray.
uh, so something else that I wanted to touch on, and just in case there are women who are watching this who want to go to tournaments, make sure that you pack feminine hygiene products, even if it's not that time for you. Just because sometimes these venues are very male centric and they're not going to have anything like that for you available, and you just don't want to be without. So just always make sure that you pack something just in case. Because yes, Skari is right. We are here for all genders to do tournaments and make it comfy for you.
Yeah, and it's it's important to understand that it's a social setting for everyone, so you have to make it as comfortable as possible for everyone involved, right?
Hmm.
And another big thing is make sure you shower or you wear deodorant if you're gonna go to a tournament. please, like it's not as bad as it used to be historically. There was this like stigma of like very stinky person coming into and stinking up your whole event. Happens rarely, doesn't happen as often or nearly as often as it used to. It seems like personal hygiene when going to the event has really become more of the standard, right?
Mm.
But still, like be conscious about that, please.
It is
Like if you want to go to a
actually
tournament,
part of my game day kit to actually bring
mm,
deodorant because you don't have any say in the heat in
I
that
do as well.
venue.
Mhm,
And like on top of that, if you're feeling any
mhm,
stress
mhm.
at all, and you don't want, because again, that's going to take your mind off the game if you're like, oh man, I smell really bad. So again, that's something that you're going to find as you go to more tournaments, but that
As
is
a
something I need. Yeah.
Yeah, I bring deodorant. Like I have deodorant in my bag. That's a
Yeah.
good thing. I actually do have deodorant in my kit. But as a TO, I even have like a spray deodorant, and I have no shame. I'll be like, "You need this, buddy."
Nice. Always looking out for
Or I'll make an
everybody's
announcement. I'll be like,
experience.
if you need deodorant and you stink, I have some here at I have some here at the front. Come and get some. Like,
Hint,
because some
hint.
people are just embarrassed, right? Because
Yeah.
they're like they didn't bring some or whatever. Like I just have it on me. It's like a spray deodorant, so it doesn't matter. Just like of
Mhm.
course in COVID, you just don't want to lick it or whatever. But still.
uh, so
Don't
Skari is
stink.
actually one of my best friends. So, if we if we get off topic and get a little bit, friendly, I guess, that's just who we are. So, I don't think I have
It's just
anything.
about tournaments.
It's about making friends. Um,
It's about making friends.
So I think that's all I have for like the night before stuff. Oh, one more thing that I bring is dry erase markers because sometimes you'll be using like these dry erase like score sheets or whatever, and the markers that they give you are not very good. So I like to bring my own just because then I know that they work. Um,
Yep.
yeah.
I do that. Well, I don't do that. I usually bring pen and paper, use the ITC battle app or whatever. It tends to
Mhm.
be like a little easier. I tend to just write stuff on a piece of paper because I feel I like actually physically writing stuff down helps me a lot.
Mhm.
And I always bring it personally. I always bring a chess clock, but that's like advanced stuff. Like I put a chess clock out in almost every single tournament game I play, just because it's a habit thing. And like it doesn't actually make a big difference at the end of the day. It's just in those games where it does make a difference, it's good to have it. But I put it on every table. I don't discriminate. And if
Yep.
somebody's new and has never played a chess clock, don't be a dick. Like work with the chess clock with your opponent, like move it for them, or like just explain how it works so that it becomes less not something that
I
doesn't put
never
pressure on the game.
I've never used one, so
Yeah,
I,
it
I
is
would
a
I
little
would need
different, but
assistance.
yeah, it's just a little different. Once you get the hang of it, it's actually no different than playing without one. It just makes people conscious of the time, which then allows people to get through their turns without like lagging. Because you chat and you can like even with my friends, I'll be like chatting, and then we're like 20 minutes into the round and we haven't deployed a single model because we've literally just been shooting the shit, right? And you're like,
Mhm.
oh crap, like we've we got to get this going, or we're not going to finish. So.
Yeah. All right. So then, what kind of things would you recommend, or tips you have for the day of the event?
Um. Well,
I'll
biggest
give I'll
thing.
give my first one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Get to the venue early.
Mhm.
Like you don't
You
want to
definitely don't want to be
be.
rushing.
Yeah, and you don't want to, like, especially if you've never been to this venue before, if you're traveling out of town, like you want to make sure that you give yourself enough time so that if you get lost, you're still going to get to the venue on time. So I like to be there nice and early.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's a big deal. Like the night before, like I'll map out like how long the drive is, so I know what time I have to leave. I'll make sure I know where I'm gonna park. Right, like a lot of these times you've gone to a place before, so you kind of get the lay of the land. But if you haven't, it's good. Hey, where do I park? Like, is there parking? Like, how long is it? Do I need is it gonna rain? Do you need an umbrella the day of? Like, is it going to be super cold and snowy? Like, do you need snow boots and snow gear, that sort of stuff? Because in Canada, that happens. And the day of, like, have a good breakfast, make sure you have some sort of food, have your coffee. Like your routine might be a little different. You might not be a breakfast person, but make sure you have like, you know, like don't forget to like ingest some sustenance of some sort at some point. Um, get to your venue, set up your army on like your tray or whatever, because the last thing you want to do is get to your first round and only then start taking out your models, because you're going to waste so much time figuring out your list and stuff like that. Get to the event, pull your tray out, put the models out, get your app ready, register, make sure you're registered, make sure your army list is uploaded or you have your army list ready, little things like that. And then when the first round goes up, like during the day, and this is round to round, just a couple of things to do every round. Find out what table you're at, go to the table, find out what mission you're playing, read the mission pack, like read the mission so you know what mission you're playing, and then take a few minutes to look at your opponent's army and then start doing your like asking questions if you don't understand what that unit does or if you have any questions about like if they have any specific stratagems, like can they advance and charge, or so you learn a little about your opponent's army, and then you discuss terrain. Hey, some tournaments have like very set terrain keywords or the way the terrain should be set. Some are very like, this is what we got, and they just put it out on the table and go figure it out yourselves. So so have a conversation with your opponent about terrain, and then just play the game. And over the course of the game, I highly recommend you try keep your gaming area as clean as possible. Like take casualties off the playing area, take dice off the playing area, like keep it as like some people just like a big pile of models in a corner. I personally don't do that, but just little things to keep it simple throughout the course of the day for you.
As a new player, your games are probably gonna run long, and that's just the way that it's going to be. So before you sit down for your first game, I would walk the venue, and I would find out where the bathrooms are, if there is food on premises. Maybe take a quick look at all of the tables just to sort of get an idea of what they look like, because you're probably not going to have as much time between games as other players. I mean, maybe you'll get matched up your first round with somebody who's very capable and you end up getting tabled in turn 3, but that might not be the case. That wasn't the case at my first tournament, so I'm really glad that I took the time to like look around, find out where all of this stuff is, because sometimes you only have a few minutes to get from your table to the next table and do like your pit stop and fill up a water bottle and all of that stuff, so you want to make sure that you know where it is before you play your first game.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that's actually a good point.
And then I find that venues are really, really drying, so make sure that you are drinking water throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, or have have lip chap as well if you get dry lips, especially at places like LVO where like it's a casino, right? And they put stuff in the air there that literally like you don't know what time it is. It's literally in like crazy artificial lighting that could be the same time of day the entire day, and it's like the perfect temperature and it's crazy dry. And if you're not drinking water constantly, you will get the wickedest headache you've ever had in your life. So make sure that you just keep that in mind.
And yeah, I before you get started too, I would introduce yourself in person to the tournament organizer so that he can put a face to the name of the person that you hopefully introduced earlier through email or something like that. And I would just make friends, like talk to the person across the table from you and be friendly and take your lickings as they come. And yeah, make friends. It's a big one.
And some people, go to a tournament, you go by yourself, and you're at a place that's like you don't really know anyone there and stuff like that. Like most like tournament goers, they've already sort of like created it, or they've seen each other before, so they'll sort of like gather in a group or whatever. Don't be afraid to sort of like get involved in the little group conversations and stuff. And if people go to lunch together or whatever, tag along. Like nobody cares if you come along. You know what I mean? Like don't sit down by yourself in a corner eating your sandwich unless you're very, very comfortable with that. Like if you want to interact and be a part of it, like the groups will be very welcoming. Hey, come chat, and we're just literally chatting about Warhammer. More, like how like that crazy roll happened that game, or how those Ogrin destroyed everything, or how that Vindicare assassin can't hit the broadside of a barn, or whatever it is. So it's not like the conversations are going to be any different. So don't be afraid to kind of like tag in if you're like you didn't come with a group of friends, right? And that people will be welcoming and kind of like let you hang out and stuff with them.
Because a lot of the people who are at that tournament, they're at that tournament for the social interaction. They're there to make friends, to see their friends. So why wouldn't they want more friends? Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's all that I really have for day of. Do you have anything else?
No, just if you have any specific like scoring or stuff like that, just make sure that you tick all the boxes, and that kind of goes with the whole just put paint on it thing. Like if they're scoring painting or whatever, just make sure that if you want those points, make sure you have those points. Other than that, it is a long day, so pace yourself. A lot of the times, like each game can be 2.5 to 3 hours plus breaks and stuff. You're going to be spending 10 to 12 hours on your feet, or hanging out, or rolling dice, or using your brain. So if you're not used to it, you will feel it at the end of the day. So it is a marathon, right? It's not a sprint. So get used to it being like a whole day thing.
All right. So now, how does one become a tournament player?
I think there's a very simple way, right? Very, very simple. I think it's just like 2 things you have to do, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. But the first thing you have to do is pay for an event, and the second thing you have to do is show up to it. Is
Pretty
that right?
much.
Then you
Yep.
become a tournament player?
That's right.
Yeah, that's
Then,
right. I
then
think
you're a
that's
tournament
it.
player.
We could just one thing, show up to one.
I'm just gonna like cut
That's it.
all of the 45 minutes that we've talked up from this point, and I'm just gonna cut it there, and then that'll be the video. It'll be like a sweet 15-second
it.
video.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
How do I become a tournament player?
Pay your entry fee.
And show up to it. Look at that. I think we just solved so many people's problems today.
That's right. Bingo bango. All right, that's all I have for today. I think that that's a lot of information. If anybody has any questions or concerns or anything like that, feel free to write your questions in the comments. I will be monitoring them. Anything that I can't answer, I will be harassing Skari so that I get the answers for you. So, yeah.
That's okay. Harass away. You can always just get me to answer them personally, whatever you need.
And if people want to find you on the internet, where can they find you?
You Google best Archon in all the land, and I'll show up.
I'm gonna test that
No, you
actually.
can. It's probably like Lawrence from Tabletop Tactics or something. Even though he plays I'm the original Archon, Lawrence. Telling you right now.
Oh.
Oh yeah, the line's been drawn. Spider ain't got nothing on the blade. More like the blade squishes the spider.
Oh.
Anyway,
I feel a little bit of
love
salt
you, Lauren.
here.
Love you, buddy. You can head on over to Patreon. It's the best way to find me at patreon.com/ScarCast, where all my stuff is, the main blog, all that stuff as well. So.
Yep. I'm a patron, and just getting access to the Discord alone is well worth my money. So I highly recommend it. If you are a new player, developing player, or an advanced player, there's something for everybody on his Patreon. So highly recommend it. Go check it out. Thank you so much for being on the show
thanks.
today.
This was great. Thank you so much, Tanya, for having me on. Really appreciate it. And, everybody who's ever wanted to go to a tournament and you're nervous about it, it's what it is. It's how it is. But going to it is very rewarding. It's a very social experience, and it sort of lets you share a hobby that we love with, a great deal of other people in real time. And hopefully, as the global pandemic subsides, we can get back to enjoying and sharing this hobby with other like-minded people globally around the world.
Thank you so much. The audio issues are already fixed, and the next video will be better. If we missed anything that makes a tournament more enjoyable, please leave it in the comments below and hit the notification bell so that you know when I release my next videos. I do daily updates on Instagram, and I stream twice a week on Twitch. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, be nice and roll dice.